In the little town where I live, I set up the very first walking food tour. 7 stops, 6 tastings. My mantra: to whisk you away on a magical and relaxing culinary adventure. Throw away your clocks, I tell my guests. Throw away your wristwatches, or don't throw them away. Just put them. Just don't look at them. Don't look at your phone, because I've now done the food tour for about 5 years, and it's by far been one of the best things I've ever done with my life, if not the best thing. And so, having done it for that long of a period of time, it's now like second nature, and that's why I tell my guests to to not look at their iPhone. But what an interesting journey it's been. When I started it, I had already been a red double-decker bus tour guide in New York City. You know, the open-air red double-decker buses that go from Manhattan to Brooklyn and back and go past Woody Harrelson's bar before he was cast in Cheers, past the UN building on the east coast of Manhattan, past the FBI building in Brooklyn, all the fun stuff. Jimi Hendrix's Electric Ladyland studio over by Washington Square Park and West 4th Street. Really enjoyed it, even though I left that job after not too long because they were trying to tell me that I couldn't leave one time and that I was able to leave. When they told me I was able to leave, you usually had to sign on for a couple of tours at a time with that job. And there was one time where they didn't have enough tour guides, and I had already finished my shift, so they wanted me to work longer, and I had an obligation, and they got really upset. So I said, that's the last I'm doing of that. But that gave me a great bedrock. Doing those tours in New York City gave me a great foundation to then go and create the first food tour, walking food tour in my little town where I now live, of about 3,000 people. It's a small historic town, and we go down Main Street, 7 stops, 6 tastings. I say we feature a variety of flavor and sensation juxtapositions, like sweet and savory, hot and cold, acid and base. And when I first started giving the food tour, all the servers would come up to me and say, hey, how do I get a job where I just get to make new friends and break bread with people? And I quickly realized that after hiring a few guides, that not everyone can do that job, especially in the Midwest. I like to say people are money hungry on the coasts like LA and New York first, and happy second, whereas in the Midwest, people are happy first and money hungry second, although that's changing with rising gas prices. But consequently, a lot of people in the Midwest live kind of an easy life, well, a non-stressful life, I should say, not easy. Life isn't easy for any of us, but a lot of people in the Midwest aren't constantly challenging themselves to talk to as many people as possible, like you might do in a New York City, where you're just shoulder to shoulder with people all the time in Manhattan and Brooklyn. And so, yeah, I realized that not everyone was cut out to do it. But for me, it really gave me a way to continue utilizing that muscle of talking to people, putting myself out there, and strengthening my ability to talk and connect with others. And so that was really important. I had been homeless, and this was the first business I started after I had been homeless. And it really prepared me for what I'm doing now and continuing to do with developing this show and doing my other YouTube channel. And so that was super cool, being able to run my yapper with with a bunch of people who just paid me money to go and eat food at this vacation town. And the other thing was, because the food tour price is so high, it's at least $100 per ticket. You not only get to eat food, but you hear about history of the town. You tend to rub elbows with really affluent people that have taken life by the horns and made something out of their life. And consequently, over the 5 years that I've done it, I have learned a thing or two. Your boy's not all as dumb as a bag of rocks anymore. And primarily by talking to a lot of 70-year-old women, we get a lot of 70-year-old women on the food tour. I learned a lot about myself, why I made certain decisions, and a lot about energy and just having faith and why things work the way they do. Just a huge positive upside to doing the food tour. I'm reminded of when I started the food tour, in this vacation town, there's always a lot of samples around at all these places during the day. And there wasn't a food tour in the town that had existed prior, and I guess nobody could figure out how to do it. And when I first went around to some of the different restaurants and said, hey, I'd like you to be one of the stops on our food tour, I got met with some real adversity. One of the shop owners looked me straight in the eyes after I told him that and said, well, our samples are just for paying guests. I guess the previous guy who had tried to do the food tour thought the restaurants would pay him to bring his guests by and eat their samples, their free food. I told the guy, I said, look, that's not what I want to do. We'll be the best behaved guests and we'll pay you and tip you at least 20%. So it all worked out, and it's been the love of my life. Now when I get a new booking, it's like opening a present. I can't wait to see who I'm going to meet, and I feel like it's who I'm supposed to meet at this point in my time. And I've loved it so much. I know it's preparing me for what's next in my life that I will love even more. Doing this show, things that I had done before being homeless that I'm just now returning to. And the food tour really brought me back to life, I'd say. So it really has been one of the best things I've done with my life. And with that, I'll leave you with a funny, true story. It had rained, and I sometimes share this on the food tour. It had rained not terribly long ago. I'd say maybe half a year ago, really bad in my little city. And a woman that I know quite well was walking down the street, and after it rains, sometimes you'll see a frog or two. She said there were just frogs all across the road from the rain. I don't know why, but this is where the story gets even crazier, and I was kind of a little skeptical at first. She told me that as she was walking through these frogs, trying not to step on any of them, one of them actually talked to her. I was like, get out of here. There's no way that's true. She said, yeah, it talked to me. I said, okay, well, what did it say? Ribbit? And she said, one of the frogs told her, kiss me, I'll turn into a beautiful prince. And she said, well, I'd rather just have a talking frog. So she put the frog in her pocket. So a lot of people think that's a Norm Macdonald joke. It is a Norm Macdonald joke, but that's actually the joke that I learned over a decade ago when I first was doing my red double-decker bus tours. I learned it from a wispy-haired guy who taught me how to give my first red double-decker bus tour. So I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll catch you in the next LG Shirley Raw. Peace.